Hey friends, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be chatting to you about handwriting tips and how I teach handwriting. Welcome. If you're new here, my name is Christine and I am a homeschooling mama to 3 kiddos aged 6, 5, and 3. I'm a second generation homeschooler and I love to share homeschool content here. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, go ahead and subscribe, hit the like button. Today I'm going to be sharing my tips for teaching handwriting. Now I am not an expert on this at all. I am purely sharing my personal experience and how I've seen progress in my 6-year-old. My 5-year-old I haven't done a lot of handwriting practice with because she has been drawing and writing since like she could hold a pencil. Like she just has a natural flair for it, and so she's kind of like just her own thing over there. She's amazing. So but I want to chat with like what a conventional kind of child would be like what a typical child is like in teaching them, and a child that often confuses their letters, gets them backwards, maybe a little bit of dyslexia. That is what I'm going to be talking to in this video. So let's chat from the beginning. I often get a lot of questions about pencil grip and how I teach my children to have good pencil grip, because I'll like share pictures of them or videos and they're like drawing or whatever. Here's the truth. I have never taught them how to hold their pencil correctly. And I know that's not really helpful. But the honest truth is I just haven't. I don't know why they've learned how to hold it correctly. But so far, 2 out of 3 kids have learned how to hold pens, pencils, whatever, correctly without my input. So if they're working with me and they start like holding it funny, because sometimes they will just to do something different, then I'll correct them. But generally speaking, they hold it correctly. So yeah, I can't really speak to that. But handwriting is honestly something that I've struggled with teaching my eldest son. It's something he found really frustrating, and I honestly think a lot of it was just developmental. He wasn't ready. The other part was that I needed to work one-on-one with him. So we used the Good and the Beautiful Level K to begin with, their handwriting program, and then I used a little bit of Learning Without Tears, their handwriting program. It was good because it gave direction on how to teach the letter formation, but I didn't love it, to be honest. So we did about half of that book. And then this year we've done the Good and the Beautiful Level 1 handwriting. And I really do like the Good and the Beautiful handwriting. I think it's very well presented. It's easy to follow. And I plan on continuing with it. But my son dreaded handwriting, and it was messy. It was often backwards. And he would get really frustrated with himself, and he was very sensitive about being corrected. And so this last term, I really, really wanted to focus on this with him, because I knew that going forward, his writing is it's going to be required of him more, and I didn't want it to be a point of contention with us. And so what I kind of do with him, and this is just sharing my personal experience, I do encourage him to write. We definitely have handwriting every single day, although it may not always be out of a handwriting book. For instance, if in his language arts curriculum it's asking him to do copy work, I won't then also go make him do handwriting, because it's too much for him. And let's face it, why? Like, why do they need to? If they're getting the practice, why just keep piling it on top of them just for the sake of crossing off like a specific subject? They're often all intertwined. So if you find that you have a child who's overwhelmed, just see if you can scale it back. Like if they have enough practice, then don't worry about it. So that's one thing I do with him. The other thing is like in his math, where it'll ask him to, do addition problems or whatever. I'll get him to do like the first 3, and then I'll finish it off, and he can just tell me the answers orally, and I will write them in for him. So I just gauge on the day how he's doing with his writing and like how much he can cope with on the day, and then I will gauge it off of that basically. So that really helps, is just being open to that. And then the other thing that I did was I really, really focused on just good letter formation. I used to have handwriting for him be a subject that I would give him while I was doing a read aloud or something like that. And I found that that wasn't working. He needed me to sit right next to him and go through the letters with him and really focus on like remembering things like how to start the letter E, like a lowercase e would often struggle with getting it right and like doing it backwards or upside down. And so it was giving him those like starting points, like this is where you start and this is the first thing you do. and then he could remember the rest. And so, like a number 5, I always was like, draw a stick, then a belly, then a stick across. And so, like, that is how I would refer to them as I was like explaining what he needed to draw. And like an E, we start in the middle, draw a line, then up and over. And so just the repetition and working with him really has made a difference. And then the final thing that is like a golden tip that I really never had heard of before, but has made a massive difference. And I read it in a homeschool Facebook group. I can't even tell you who said it, but whoever you were, thank you, because this really made a difference. And that was, instead of like when he's completed his handwriting, going through and saying, okay, you needed to fix this, you needed to work on that, I would go to the page and I would pick out my favorite letter that he wrote, or the best word that I felt he wrote, and I would circle it. And then what I also did was I told him to pick out one. And this was actually something he came up with. He's like, I want to pick one too. So he picked out one that he felt he did the best, and I picked out one that I felt he did the best. And this made like a massive difference. I can't even tell you how it changed his attitude towards handwriting, because instead of me being a nag, he was self-motivated to do his absolute best and to not rush through it, because he's my son. He wants to just rush through it and go outside and play. Like, that is just him. And so to give him that motivation to like sit there and do his very best and to do it well was just brilliant. So I highly suggest doing that if you have a reluctant writer, to just focus on the positive and ignore the negatives. Because if you're focusing on that positive, then it's one, easier to address the negative, or they just don't really pay attention to the negative because they're so focused on the positive and they realize that's the correct way to do it. That's how I'm going to do it every time. And so that has worked wonders for our family. So I've been very impressed with his progress this month. I think it's developmental. I think it's been the one-on-one, and I think it's been focusing on the positive things that he's managed to do with his handwriting. And he's not crying every time I stick a piece of paper in front of him and say, you need to write this or you need to do that. And I didn't ask a lot of him, but it was any kind of handwriting. He just did not like it. He's not diagnosed with dyslexia or anything, but he definitely does write things backwards often. When he gets really fatigued, he'll sometimes read words backwards. He'll start reading it backwards. And so that's something I'm aware of as well. So just keeping my expectations real, with what he is capable of doing. And I'm sure a lot of it will fade as he gets older. So yeah, I hope these tips are helpful. It's just my personal experience. Like I said, I'm not an expert. I know you can do things like drawing in dirt, drawing in rice. You can like use Play-Doh for letter formation. Those are all great things. And I've used those with my kids as well. But this is specific to like pen and paper or pencil and paper and like correct letter formation and just working on changing attitudes, because that makes a world of difference, doesn't it just? So, yes, I hope it was helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
If the world had more of your smile, what if the wind could spread your love? What if your sweetness could reach everyone? There'd be no wars,